Welcome to Business News. I am Omobolanli Adishui, and here are the stories we're tracking at the moment. An analyst has berated the low performance of the Nigerian economy in 2021, describing it as nothing to write home about. Olusegun Okwade, chartered accountant and public affairs analyst, stated this on Business Breakfast earlier in the day. Okwade added that he is hopeful that 2022 would have a better outlook.
If you look at the economy of our country in the year 2021, and going by the statistics that you roll out, it's quite not too favorable to both the macro economy and the business tycoon themselves, considering certain things which you have identified that we will be discussing about, ranging from the policy, from the government themselves, the microeconomic index, the foreign exchange itself. You discover, and to crown it all, areas where I always shy away from because it's what is obvious and there's nothing too much to talk about than to be hopeful and optimistic that the year ahead, considering that they will go back to the drawing table as soon as the budget is finally assented by the president, for us to have a better and futuristic 2022.
And about 8 federal highways were completed by the federal government this year, while 10 others are projected for completion in the second quarter of 2022. It was gathered on Monday. It was also gathered that 5 of the completed 8 highways had already been inaugurated and handed over to various states and communities where the projects were located. Officials of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing noted that the road projects were basically funded through budgetary allocations and Sukuk funds. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, recently stated that the Sukuk funding option, which the federal government adopted, was currently aiding the progress of work on 44 roads across the country. Officials at the Works Ministry on Monday outlined the 5 completed road projects that had been inaugurated by the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, to include the 142.2-kilometer dualized Kano-Maiduguri Road, Section 2, Shuwarin-Azari, connecting Jigawa and Bauchi states. Others include the Sokoto-Tambuwal-Jega-Kotangora Makera Road, Vadenkia Obudu Cattle Ranch Road, Nnewe Oduma Road, and Kano Maiduguri Road Section 3, Azare Potiskum. The Director, Highways, Construction and Rehabilitation, Folorunsho Eson, stated that while the 5 listed federal highways had been completed and inaugurated, some others were awaiting inauguration. And Nigeria's oil industry has continued to bleed owing to incessant shutdowns due to aging upstream infrastructure, vandalism, and community-related issues, with the country losing over 4.82 million barrels to the challenges. Although a marked reduction from the 6.3 million barrels lost in the preceding month, the country's production losses recorded in October came mainly from Forcados, Boni Odudu, Brass, Yoho, Uruha, Ajapa, and Ajay in the Niger Delta. But a review showed that the situation will most likely continue unmitigated, at least in the short term, as Shell a few days ago announced a halt in crude shipment from the same Forcados, a situation that may negatively impact the country's revenue stream and worsen existing shortages in the international market. Shell announced that it had declared force majeure on exports of Nigerian Forcados crude oil after a malfunctioning barge obstructed tanker path. The blend is one of Nigeria's unique crude, with an average turnover of about 200,000 barrels per day. Energy conglomerate Sahara Group says it has made a commitment of $44 million for the construction of liquefied petroleum gas facilities within the West African sub-region to ensure steady availability of cleaner energy sources for the global market. The group also disclosed that its commitment to host communities enabled its investment of $742 million in community development with a focus on COVID-19 relief support. Sahara Group's Director of Governance and Sustainability, Ms. Pearl Uzokwe, stated this as part of the highlight of the group's 2020 sustainability report containing the scorecard of its economic, social, and environmental performance across 7 operating entities within the group, including the Sahara Foundation. The Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, ANED, on Monday explained why electricity distribution companies always assumed ownership of equipment voluntarily made available by customers for use by DISCO networks. ANED's Executive Director for Research and Advocacy, Sunday Odunton, said in a statement issued in Abuja that the move by DISCOs had to do with indemnity and public safety. He said, quote, "Many people have asked that question and the answer is simple, and we feel it is important to shed light on it for the sake of the public awareness. It is a case of indemnity and protection," end of quote. Odunton added that DISCOs needed to protect the equipment and ensure that access was only granted to qualified personnel, as some people had lost their lives because they were trying to maintain their transformers without being certified to do so. The currency in circulation rose from 2.97 trillion naira at the end of October to 3.15 trillion naira in November, according to figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The CBN data show that the currency in circulation increased to 2.84 trillion naira in September from 2.78 trillion naira in August. It stood at 2.81 trillion naira in July, 2.74 trillion naira in June, 2.79 trillion naira in May, 2.79 trillion naira in April, 2.8 trillion naira in March, 2.78 trillion naira in February, and 2.83 trillion naira in January. The Currency Operations Department of the CBN said in its 2020 annual report that it sustained banknotes disposal operations in 2020 to ensure the circulation of clean banknotes. The Apex Bank said in furtherance of its objective, it deployed 11 banknote destruction systems and 3 currency disintegrating systems for currency disposal activities in the period under review. It said at the end of December 2020, a total of 1.5 billion pieces, that is 151,427 boxes, valued at 698.5 billion naira, was disposed, compared with 1.57 billion pieces, that is 157,217 boxes, valued at 814.4 billion naira in 2019. According to the CBN, the boxes and value of unfit notes disposed in 2020 decreased by 5,790 and 1.12 billion naira respectively, from 157,217 boxes valued at 814.4 billion naira in 2019. The management of Total Energies Upstream Nigeria Limited has said it will build hygiene and sanitary projects in universities across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The managing director, Total Energies Companies in Nigeria, Mr. Mike Sangster, said this during the inauguration and handover of sanitary projects to the Rivers State University, Port Harcourt. Sangster said the gesture was in fulfillment of the company's corporate social responsibilities. The project, which is an initiative of Total Energies and its joint development zone partners, comprises 10 toilets divided into 2 parts of 5 toilets each for females and males. The facility also includes urinals for male with other ancillary items like hand wash basins and dryers, a borehole with 1.5 HP automatic solar-powered submersible pump, a 3.5 kVA hybrid solar power system, as well as an overhead water tank. Sangster, who was represented by the Executive Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Olatunji Akinwumi, said the facility was also in response to health challenges posed by infectious diseases and the need for preventive health care. Experts in the telecommunication industry have said the move by the federal government to tax social media companies is right because the companies generate commercial revenues from the nation. According to Meta, 7.5% value-added tax will be applied on sales of ads to advertisers from January 2022. and this applies to all non-resident businesses that provide digital service in the nation. The company's spokesperson said, quote, "Starting in the new year, Nigeria will implement a new value-added tax. This law requires non-resident businesses that provide digital services to charge an additional 7.5% in tax. This includes advertising services like those from Facebook," end of quote. The National Coordinator Alliance for Affordable Internet, Olushola Teniola, noted that the move by the federal government was aimed at increasing its revenue through taxes. He said it is all under the auspices of the government trying to increase its revenue. There has been a debate even amongst the OECD countries as to how they can achieve taxation of digital companies. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, has insisted that plane cabin is a low-risk environment for COVID-19 pandemic, including the Omicron variant. According to IATA, factors that contribute to the very low risk include aircraft design characteristics, direction of airflow, rate of air exchange, and filtration, the forward orientation of passengers while seated, well-enforced masking, and enhanced sanitary measures. IATA said the quality of supplied air on board an aircraft is much better than most indoor environments, adding that aircraft cabin remains a very low-risk environment for contracting COVID-19, even though the new Omicron strain of the virus appears to be more transmissible than other variants in all environments. The airline body said other cabin features, including the mandatory usage of masks on board and the requirement around tests and/or vaccination certificates, made the risk of contracting COVID-19 to be very low. And moving on to the foreign scene, crude oil demand in China is set to peak in 2030. Until then, driven by robust petrochemicals demand, research from state oil giant CNPC has suggested. This is a revision on 2020 research from the same organization. CNPC Economics and Technology Research Institute, ETRI, which at the time saw oil demand peaking at 730 million tons annually in 2025. Now, the institute expects demand to peak at 780 million tons. Fuel demand, however, will peak years before crude oil demand. ETRI also said it now sees gasoline, diesel, and kerosene fuel demand peaking in 2025 at some 390 million tons per year as electrification of transport grows in the world's largest market for electric vehicles. Coal consumption will also peak around 2030, the research organization also forecast, seeing the peak at around 3.6 to 4 billion tons. By 2050, coal generation capacity will also be used as backup, ETRI researchers said. Natural gas will be the last fossil fuel to peak in terms of demand. According to the CNPC Economics and Technology Research Institute, this will happen in 2040 at levels of 650 billion cubic meters annually. And global oil and gas discoveries in 2021 are on track to hit their lowest full-year level in 75 years, if by the end of December there are no significant finds, a Rystad Energy analysis has shown. As of the end of November, total global discovered volumes this year were calculated at 4.7 billion barrels of oil equivalent BOE, and with no major finds announced so far this month. The industry is on course for its worst discoveries toll since 1946. This would also represent a considerable drop from the 12.5 billion BOE unearthed in 2020. Although liquids continue to dominate the hydrocarbon mix, making up 66% of total finds. 7 new discoveries were announced in November 2021, unearthing around 219 million BOE of new volumes. The report from Rystad, an independent energy research and business intelligence company providing data, tools, analytics, and consultancy services, stated. The monthly average of discovered volumes this year now stands at 424 million BOE as a reduction in cumulative volume highlight the absence of large individual finds, as has been the case in previous years. And with that, it's a wrap from the business desk. I am Omobolale Adeshi. Bye for now.